Hello and welcome. It is officially episode 1. Episode 0 had such a great reception, and I thank you all very much for it, but we'll get back to the performance of that episode in a minute. Let's talk about what I did this week, since this is a weekly installment of the podcast. Checking levels pedantically here, making sure we're all good. I think we're fine. It's been really good this week. I started strength training again this week, which I think is kind of crucial to my development. I don't even know where I'm going with that, but I always see myself as a relatively stronger person, and I don't really enjoy hypertrophy that much. Like, it's fun to get a pump, and then, you kind of see yourself in the reflection of something. You look massive, but I like numbers, pure numbers. So being able to, go in there, I've added 5 kilos to the squat, 10 kilos to the squat. Today was deadlifts, which was really fun. We managed 125 with a trap bar, which was super fun. Just felt good. I haven't really lifted in the triple digits on a deadlift, on any of the big movements in a very long time. It's been at least, 8 months since I've really put some serious numbers up there. But that was good. So 125 on the deadlift. We then went into some pull-ups, cable row, lat pull down, arm isolation, hammer curl, cable curl, all that kind of stuff. Really good workout. And that was that. Knuckling down super hard on the podcast. It's such a, move this for a sec. It's such an interesting world I haven't delved into before. All of my content consumption and what I thought I was going to do, sort of like hammer it full time, was going to be Let's Plays on YouTube and game related stuff. Well, I still do game related stuff, but it's in a weirdly different thing. It's like when you see where you want to be with your dreams and your dream job and where do you see yourself in 5 years kind of thing. It's right, but it's about 10% right. 90% of the time, it's 10% right. So what I mean is, a few years ago, if you'd asked me, okay, what do I want to do? I want to be the next Markiplier on YouTube. I'm playing games. I record them. I upload them. That's what I do. While I'm still in the game sphere, I'm still playing games, and we've got Series X, which we'll talk about in a minute. It's in a different light. I'm reviewing games, which I didn't think I'd ever actually be doing for a living anyway. Still checking these levels pedantically, but I think you guys can hear me. So yeah, I'm in the realm of where I want to be, but in a different position. I was aiming for 18 degrees off axis, but I'm negative 25. In the same area, still doing roughly the same things in a different manner. And then you've got the podcast. So I thought, okay, cool, I was going to do gaming YouTube. Now I'm doing gaming reviews for a company, and that's what I get paid for. And then you've got this podcast, which I think is going to do really well. Because one of the things I struggled with on YouTube doing Let's Plays is I'm really good at putting on this high energy commentary type of thing, but it's not really me. That's something I really have to pull myself into, pull character out of me to get. And I think people can tell. And that's why it didn't work out as well as I was hoping it would. GeoGuessr did okay, but like Man of Medan, smaller indie games, it didn't take off quite the way I wanted it to, which is fine. That's perfectly fine. That's not my thing. And I found this where I can be a bit more level, a little bit more down, and it still works really well. Because, truth be told, in real life, I'm fairly to myself. I'm fairly quiet. This works really well as not only talking about some topics that I've got some notes on, but it's a good exercise in talking because I struggle to talk to people. And that could be a whole hour topic for another day because I've already got the episode planned out. But it's a good exercise in bridging things, talking, and knowing that it's okay to, when you talk to someone, to go on a little bit of a tangent. They'll stop you when they want you to stop you. Don't you worry about that. But it's okay. So that's that. So I've been knuckling down on the podcast, planning it. When after I filmed episode 0, in my notes, I start a new one, episode 1. You jot down the bullet points of what you want things to be. You expand on it later. So you've got topics of things you want to make sure. That way I'm not script reading a podcast, but I've still got some structure and some topics to cover. We're still tackling current events and tips and tricks and games and tech and movies. There's a bit of everything. It's a lifestyle type of thing. It's really, really good. Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Now there's I really hope this podcast released when it should, because there's things I am and am not supposed to say, but I think we should be safe. Valhalla is sick. Now, Assassin's Creed is one of those titles that I've followed for years and years. I saw the first one come out, and my cousin got it on PS3, and I watched him play that a lot. And I think within a year later, I was able to kind of sneak in and play it. Accidentally erased his save game. Don't tell him. Played Assassin's Creed 1 a lot. Then I kind of just snowballed from there. I had my best mate, Zach, who picked up, I think after we played 1, which I then later got on 360, he then got Assassin's Creed Chronicles on 360. No, on 360. Assassin's Creed Chronicles on iPod Touch, which then snowballed. I got Assassin's Creed Bloodlines on PSP, which is a great game. If you're a connoisseur and consider yourself well-read in the Assassin's Creed universe, find an emulator, buy a PSP for $20 online if you have to. Play that game. It's clunky, but the story and the narrative, it's all there, and I think it was really, it's worthwhile to play. I think it's really good. So then I got Bloodlines. Then he got gifted a 360 for his birthday, December 3rd, coming up soon. And then he got Brotherhood 2 and 3? Or it was just Brotherhood and 2. And then he played them out of order, even though I told him not to. So he played Brotherhood first, then he went back and played 2, and then he complained about 2, which, you know, you've played the more feature fleshed out one, then you've gone back and played 2, it's expected. Then I think up until Black Flag, he played almost all of them pretty religiously. You know, they come out every year. You got 3, and then you got Black Flag, and then you've got, I don't think he played Liberation, but he's pretty big on DLC, so maybe he did. And then pretty much by the time Unity came out, I had gone back and played them all. So I played, you got 1, 2, Brotherhood, 3, Revelations, don't forget that, Black Flag, Unity, Rogue. I didn't do the DLC for 3, which is Liberation or Freedom Cry. Unity, Rogue, and then I think it went on a Syndicate came out. Yeah, Unity, Rogue, Syndicate. Then you had Origins. Then you had Odyssey, both which are fantastic. Origins took some getting used to back in the day because they changed literally everything of how you move around and the combat. It was very much like The Witcher 3, which also a fantastic game. Go play it. Odyssey, and now we're at Valhalla, which is fantastic. Review of it coming soon. Keep an eye on Telstra channels if you do. Vikings, Norse mythology, and great combat, dual wielding, all really good. I'll leave it at that. That's pretty much what you could ascertain from the trailer. Very good game, been playing that. And then we've got Series X, which we have a bit more expansion on a little bit later, but sick console. Like, I've bought the PS3 and 4 because I went back post-generation kind of thing and picked up a couple titles that appealed to me and play those. But for the most part, on like, I'm getting it launch day, I'm always an Xbox guy. And then I'll get games that feel good on consoles, like Assassin's Creed always feels really good on a console to me, and like Need for Speed, Forza kind of thing. And then I fill in the blanks on PC. Stuff like Call of Duty, to me, is better on PC. Grand Theft Auto, a little bit better on PC, even though I still play it with a controller, but the graphical fidelity is almost a lot better on PC. It's a great console, surprisingly heavy, but again, we'll get into that very, very soon. And yeah, I guess tying back into podcast episode 0, which I think, yeah, we'll start with that. Really well received. I was so happy with, one, how easily it came to me to do. So normally if I go and like, I'm going to play Amnesia: The Dark Descent, it's going to be part 1. It takes for me a while. I've already hit record. It takes me a few minutes to kind of be like, I'm in let's play mode. I'm in make quirky and snarky comments mode about the game, and oh, this guy's chasing me. Oh no. It takes me a minute or 2 to get into that. With the podcast, I was kind of like record, sync it with a clap, which if you don't know, that's how you do it. And then I'm just off to the races, just talking stuff, talking absolute trash the entire time. And well, not absolute trash, but that is kind of the idea. I can kind of ramble and spiel and make some semblance of an episode out of it. There's a theme, all that kind of thing. And it did really well. So ended up top 1 of 10 of my videos. So for those of you who don't or haven't or won't run YouTube or anything like that. So when your analytics, which tells you sort of your views and your watch time, and you can respond to comments, you've got a section that shows you your top 10 videos. And as a new video gets released over a specific amount of time, you'll have how it's performing against your other top 10 videos within that time frame. So if you release a video, then 8 hours later, this is where the other 10 videos were 8 hours into their release. So it's a really interesting way to, I don't know, not monetize, what is it? Market? No, it's measure. It's a very interesting way to measure your performance. So within the first couple hours, it went to number 2, like instantly. And then within the first day, it was number 1. It's still number 1. It's doing fantastically, and I'm loving it. Once we were able to record episode 0, we were able to upload that to my distributor, get that sent out, get all the platforms verified. So you can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. There's another one called Stitcher, Google Music. It did have the option for YouTube to distribute, but because I do the own video and then I'll separate it into clips, which I'll get to in a second, I do that myself, so I left that. And then I think the last one was you could find us on like Overcast and like Pocket Cast. There's a couple of different obscure podcast apps that just have a couple features, so you can find us on there too. I think you've got to type in my name though. So if you try and recommend this to someone and you tell them Just Winging It, turns out there's about 30 to 40 different podcasts that have that same name, or like you've got like episode descriptions that have Just Winging It in there. And then it comes up as well. So if you type in my full name, Joshua Apadu, on Spotify, it comes up, but then you'll also find my personal Spotify. If you want to follow me, I've got some sick playlists. You can follow me there. And I believe the same thing applies on Apple Podcasts or iTunes as well. So well received by friends. I was able to share the link to episode 0. People loved it. Got mates watching it, sending me videos. I'm like, loving it. I'm loving it. I think it works really well because if I tried to still be doing gameplay, you know, some people are like, that's not my game. I've got friends who are more sport game related, like FIFA and stuff. I've got people who play Elder Scrolls, people who like the more arcadey stuff. So this is a nice way to tie it all together. And I think it just performs better in my head. I much prefer planning a single, 1 to 2 hour podcast episode than, 14 individual Let's Play videos. Not where 7 came from. Individual Let's Plays where now you've got to structure it and you've got to edit it differently. Some are longer, some are shorter, some are more edited. I have a good structure with how this is going to work, and I'm really excited with the future of this workflow for the podcast. So the basic way to break it down is there's going to be one weekly episode, which is going to be fairly long. So like it could be 40 minutes, it could be 2.5 hours. I don't know yet. We'll see how we're going in terms of timing a bit later. And then between that episode and the next week's episode, you've got these clips that will come out, which are highlight clips, similar to how people do Twitch. So for example, this bit we're talking about now will be a reactions to episode 0 section, and that'll be like a 5 to 10 whatever minute clip, and that gets released. And I've got content that fills between episodes, and it works really, really well. I like the idea of doing that, as opposed to 7 individual rap videos, which it's not to say I won't upload more normal videos, like a more scripted like thing or anything like that. I don't know what I could be doing in a month. There could be more vlog style content coming. I know I definitely wanted to dip into that a bit more. It just depends sort of what happens with COVID and that kind of stuff and what I end up doing with my time. But the process is another one that was big on podcasts. Setting up a Let's Play is slightly simpler because the camera's always in the same position. Your mic, you just bring it down, you're good. Hit record and everything, you're set. It's more draining of a process because you're almost putting on a front. Because like I said, I'm more of a downtrodden, lower level person. It's much easier for me to do this than to bring myself back up like that for like couple hours maybe every other day to batch record, and then you're exhausted. After I film this, I'm good. I feel like I've gotten some stuff out there. It's like I said in the episode 0, if you listen to it, it's like a verbal journal or a diary where I can kind of blurt and people can discuss. We can all discuss all that kind of stuff. And I think it's good for the mind. So I believe if you're in a position where you can do this, you don't necessarily need the video component, the audio component. If you don't want to do the website, which, by the way, has launched, literally You could do it all on your phone, set yourself up in a quiet room, write some notes. You could have a podcast going in an hour and get it all set up. And I would advise a lot of people do it. It's very interesting, the world, because I've known YouTube for so long and I've watched it for so many years, but I've only started listening to podcasts now. So it's a whole new universe to me. If you tell me who's the biggest YouTuber and I'm like, okay, PewDiePie, you get some James Charles, Mr. Beast kind of thing. Yes, I could tell you the biggest podcaster is Joe Rogan, but I know fewer and far between. Between me and him, I don't know who else is really there. There's a couple that I listen to, but other than that, I haven't really explored it too much, so it's really good to wet my feet without knowing first, which is really interesting. So kind of just jumping straight in the deep end, I don't know what the competition's really like, nor do I really care. I kind of just do this for me, and it's really interesting. And yeah, so that's that little piece. I've also got my tea, which I think it's a bit warm still. I went with green tea with mint. I'm sure we'll tackle my coffee obsession in future episodes at some point, because I do the most complex and probably pointless and time-consuming methods of making coffee just because it's cool. It just looks really sick and mildly influenced by a bit of Peter McKinnon and other James Hoffman style people. But that's neither here nor there. What we will talk about, though, my segues will need some work. Hopefully we'll work on that in future of how I move from topic to topic, but I think it works fine for now. iPad. Now, I'm a big Apple person at the moment. I never used to be, and I think we discussed that in the last podcast as well. So rocking the iPhone XS, that's my daily driver. It works really well and cohesively, and it works better now that I use a couple other Apple products. So I use the Apple Watch mostly only to track exercise and sleep. I don't really use it for much else. Maybe, Siri to activate a timer every now and then. AirPods are the other one. Massive, massive difference. So I bought those when I was still working retail. And I was walking to work, and it's about a 20 to 30 minute walk each way. And up until then, working retail and fast food, every commute was used just your standard Apple earphones. I had some really good headphones by a company called Monster. They had like a really weird square design to them, but they had really great sound. I used some Beats for a little while as well, walking to school back in high school. The biggest problem is the cable always freaking breaks. On Apple headphones, they're cheap to replace, but you can't really do much else. So you just buy a new headset. When I moved to the Monster headset, where you could just change out the aux cable and you had to go buy a new one of those for like $5-10, that was game changing. And then changed again when I bought AirPods, which was a massive hit to the bank. It was like $200 at the time. But now it's Bluetooth, it's wireless. Now I don't have to figure out, so when I leave work, there's no more feeding the cable through my shirt, chuck my headphones on. It's just pop them in. The cable can't break. They last a lot longer. The battery's great. All that good stuff. AirPods Pro, or whatever comes after AirPods Pro now, is probably something I'll look to in the future, but for the time being, these do fantastically. But iPad. I've always been anti-tablet for a long time. So I always had the vision that whatever you can do on a tablet, just do it on your phone. But then you're like, oh, but the tablet's got a little bit more oomph. I'm like, well, then do it on a laptop or a desktop. Why are you bridging it with this device again? But now I've been converted. Obviously, with the exception of video editing to some degree, depending how complex you like to get with it, it does everything. So I'll pull it off the keyboard here, which is another thing I'll get to in a sec. So iPad Pro. So for those who can't see or on the audio thing, it's the 12.9 inch iPad Pro. Pretty much covers my entire head. The camera is honestly a little bit useless. I don't plan to use that for anything. If I'm going to scan a document, I will just use my phone and then I can cloud it over to my iPad or anything like that. But I use it for everything. I write my show notes on there. I write script reviews for Telstra on there. I can edit my photos in Lightroom on there and push them straight to Instagram without going, edit on my desktop, Dropbox it, download it, upload it. It's seamless and instant. Or I can even airdrop it to my phone and upload it that way to do all your captionings and whatever like that. It's so seamless and helpful. And then you tack on the Magic Keyboard, which the other one, so the Folio keyboard is a good start. So if the price jump is too much for you and you're considering doing this, get the Folio, it's fine. You get the great keyboard, which is similar to what they use in the MacBook Airs and stuff. And it's so much better than typing on the iPad. But if you go to the Magic Keyboard, you get like a hinge screen as well. So you can actually prop it up and you don't have to be on a table for it to have somewhere to rest, which is fantastic. I've moved too far in my notes. And yeah, I can use it literally to replace my entire workflow. With the exception of video editing, I could, if I wasn't doing video podcast and only audio, I could scrap my laptop and my desktop almost entirely if I didn't PC game. So if I was console gamer with no video production needs, I could work entirely off an iPad Pro. You can read external hard drives. You can do server file transfer. I can use Lightroom on it. If you get a couple of dongles, I'm pretty sure I could plug in my recorder into there and podcast straight into it, edit all the audio on there, distribute it from there. It works fantastically and it's a really great experience. And because it's enjoyable, I want to work. Because I look forward to, I feel slightly important when I use an iPad Pro to type up my notes for a podcast episode that like one person listens to. I feel slightly more important doing it, so I'm more likely to do the work. But that then, out of my personal projects, like the podcast, extends into my game reviews and scripting and storyboarding and all that kind of stuff, which I get more work done. I'm way more productive. I listen to more educational style podcasts. I'm just activating my mind a bit more on a daily basis. I journal in this and on paper, which is a very strange thing I'll get to in a minute. I track my fitness. I'm trying to improve my typing speed, so I keep a record of all the tests I do for typing speed. What else have I got? I've got a resonance calendar, which is something really interesting and cool because it's a cloud storage app that I use. Did I have that coming down later? We'll talk about the app in a minute, but I can do everything on here and I can forward stuff to it, and it's really, really good. Price gets a bit touchy after that. So the 12.9 inch is obviously a fair chunk more expensive than the 11 inch. This one, base storage, no cellular, was $1,649 Australian. So that's something to consider. If that's still a bit steep, I would go the 11 inch. Or if you really don't need a single Pro feature, get the new iPad Air. Is so good. One, it comes in some sick colors. And two, it still has the Apple Pencil support for charging on the side if you're going for that. And three, it still has the square edge design, which I freaking love on the iPad Pro. So much better than their weird rounded body thing they did on the old one. Kind of just looks like an iPhone 3G at that point. So 1649 for base storage, Wi-Fi, no cellular, 12.9 inch. Tack on a pencil, $199. I didn't go that route because I don't do it that often to justify buying one. So no Apple Pencil for me, but that is $199 if Australian if you go down that route. Keyboard's another hit. For a keyboard that just has a trackpad and a hinge, it's $589 Australian. But again, at least in my mind, I can justify that money for getting this amount of work done. Especially it's work that pays me. It's like the game review stuff, that's how I make my money. That's how I pay bills. So obviously getting the work done smoother, faster, better quality is worth the money. So there's that. Number 3 is specs. Now you're paying $2,300 for a tablet and a keyboard, maybe a pencil, depending what you go. Specs don't match up for $2,200. $2,200, you could build a mid-tier gaming PC, probably with peripherals on the cheaper side, but probably with peripherals that, you can edit photos on, you could do all this stuff. But depending what your views are on, especially what kind of design you like as well, maybe you'll get more work done that way. That's something to definitely consider. But it will outperform this in terms of specs, minus sort of touchscreen and stylus capability. So spec-wise, its value to dollar ratio, its performance to dollar ratio is way whack. It's horrible. It sucks. But then, so pros and cons. Big pro, I get more work done because it's an enjoyable process as opposed to typing on my desktop. When I type on my desktop, I just want to watch YouTube or play games. It's a horrible experience to do productive work and, like, if you would say uni type work on a desktop computer. Another benefit, looks really good, performs well, does all my tasks, and then it makes Instagram management and processing seamless. So it's taken over most of my daily workflow, which is really good. Cons, you come to price, is a really big thing. If I wasn't using this for work and this was just going to be, I want an iPad, I definitely would have gotten the iPad Air because it came out pretty much at the exact moment I decided I wanted to get an iPad. So I would have done that because that pretty much has every feature you need. I was like, yeah, okay, high refresh rate, all that kind of stuff. Sure. Changes I would make. Ports. If Apple literally swallowed their pride and actually made an iPad with I/O that's not just the Type-C port, while yes, I get it looks sick having one port, it would look sicker if this tablet became way more functional. If I could hook this up over here and have it as a camera monitor, so it's got HDMI in, it's got HDMI out, it would have a couple of Type-C ports. Okay, I can get maybe not putting a full-size Type-A port, okay, but give us a few more Type-C ports so you can have one charging and a couple other devices hooked up without needing a dongle yet. Dongles will come into some point. Audio in, audio out, SD card slot. That's all you'd need, and this would be the sickest multimedia video production powerhouse. You could throw a keyboard on it, type up all your notes, you could draw on it, storyboard stuff, or if you're an animator or whatever, and then you can chuck it on like a friction arm, plug a camera in, and now you're monitoring it. It's a multi-purpose device you would sell 10 times more almost. But I guess they're making some kind of money in dongles, but if you're buying first-party Apple dongles, you're a fool. Just buy the cheap stuff. On Amazon, you'll get a one dongle does all, and it'll be like the cost of one dongle from Apple. But then the Apple ones are like, here's one for an aux port, here's one for charging pass-through and one USB port, here's one for SD cards, here's one for video out. What? I can't even use them all at once, so what's the freaking point? So those are the changes I'd make. It's a interesting device for productivity. I really, really like it. But moving swiftly on, I keep itching the back of my throat and the roof of my mouth, my tongue. I really hope you can't hear that because hay fever. Hay fever season is in full swing as I sip my tea. Hay fever season is in full swing here in Melbourne, and it's awful. It bridges a season I love with a season I moderately hate, with a period of about 2 months, which are complete hell on earth for me. So hay fever, if you're not somehow familiar with it, itchy throat, runny nose, sneezing, it pretty much sounds like you have a cold in 25 to 30 degree weather. It's so stupid. And then you couple that with the fact that it's currently COVID craze everywhere. So there's lockdowns going around, people have COVID, there's masks, and then you're walking through the city, sniffing your mind out, runny nose, you're blowing your nose, you're coughing, you're sneezing, you look like ground zero for a new outbreak yet again, and it's so annoying. No antihistamine I try ever works. They're either too strong, and we'll get to the too strong one in a sec. The too weak, I've got to pop 1 to 4 of them a day if they're too weak. And then the really strong ones are only strong because they also knock you the hell out and put you to sleep. While that not being a bad thing, so you take it at night, you fall asleep, you wake up, you're good for 24 to 48 hours. All the ones that make you lethargic knock you the hell out. You will struggle to get up. It feels like you've been drugged in the morning. And I can't do that. Most people have a job to go to in the morning. I've got stuff to do in the morning. I can't have that weighing me down. So for 2 months out of the year, until they manage to cure it, which please, I swear to God, please just cure it, I suffer 2 months out of the year. That's just a necessary evil, which sucks. And yeah, I just hate a quarter of the year now because of flowers and pollination and the way Mother Nature works. So that's my little tangent on that. So if COVID would go away, that's one portion of hating hay fever that would go away. But the majority of it is the fact that it's just annoying as hell. Like you're trying to sleep and you're sneezing, or you've got a really itchy throat, which isn't a cold. And then, yeah, people just assume you're sick all the time from end of September to the start of December, which sucks. So, again, swiftly on. Recently watched a movie called Black Box. Now, if you haven't seen this, you'll know by the end of this segment if you want to watch it or not, but it's so interesting. So it feels like a movie directed by Jordan Peele, who, if you're not familiar with, from Key and Peele, he was comedian man, now turned incredible director, directed Get Out and doing Candyman, which is a remake of a 1980s horror film, which is strange, but it's worth a watch. Really good director. Now, this one was directed by Emmanuel Osei Kuffour, which I can guarantee I butchered. And essentially the plot of the movie is you've got a dude is in an accident, has amnesia, needs to fix it so he doesn't lose his daughter to social services because his wife passed away in the accident as well. So it's his journey to fix his amnesia. That's all you need to know without the plot being ruined. And then it goes into some weird sections of how dreams work, and he's like trying to go through and find out what's, these memories, and everyone's got blurred faces. This isn't too much more than you'd find in a trailer, so I'm trying to not reveal plot details too much. People got blurred faces, and he's going through these turmoils and meets a doctor to help him. But it was not to hate on Mr. Osei Kufur's work, but it was done so much almost in the likeness of Jordan Peele that I wish it was directed by Jordan Peele. Because it starts and I feel like it's going to be not in a similar style, but having the same directive path that Get Out did. And there was another one that Jordan Peele directed that escapes me right now. But I wish it took the same strength and direction. It kind of did some things in the latter third that I wasn't a fan of. And then you've got the end, which they've set up for a sequel. Maybe. Or maybe they're just like pissing people off at the end. They've set it up for a sequel, but it wasn't done well enough to deserve one. They could have concisely ended it there, and that would have been actually quite a nice story. And I think a lot of my tripes with this movie would have been gone had they said, okay, that's a movie. Not, is there another one? Or anything like that. But I still think it does deserve a watch, I think. It's opening it up to obviously supporting the diversity community and directors and producers and everybody in the film world. But it is just interesting. So whether you like that sort of, it's a psychological thriller, not necessarily horror. So there's no supernatural elements, which I'm not a fan of in terms of horror. When it comes to horror, I like much more, this could technically really happen kind of thing. So psychological thriller. Think Shutter Island at like 60% strength. That's the closest thing I can recommend to that. So Shutter Island at 60% strength. I say watch it. I think you can Netflix it. You can probably Hulu it. Find some other method of watching the movie online. I only condone purchasing the movie, but nonetheless, we move. But yeah, definitely interesting movie. Go check that out. And then we'll come back now to the Xbox Series X. That's my trailer voice. I've been working on that because we tried to use it for a teaser overlay. We were going to do some kind of like Hollywood style trailer. This coming season, this holiday season, Xbox Series X will save many people from boredom. It didn't quite work out how we thought. We ended up going with a very plain Jane vanilla trailer. But Series X, comes out on the 10th, launching with Valhalla. So that's definitely, if you're going to get a Series X or a PS5, which I think releases a couple days after, just pick up Valhalla. It's so sick. If you're into the series, if not, I reckon you can still get into it, especially if you're a fan of the God of War realm kind of thing. The Norse mythology thing, I think Vikings are the new zombies, and everyone's using it now. But Valhalla definitely worth a play. But Series X, 10th, go pick one up. If you're like me, like I very rarely buy physical games. If you're watching the video, if you're watching the audio, I've got a shelf behind me with a fair chunk of my classic collection. Almost all of my Xbox One titles are gone because originally I had an Xbox One, the one I bought. Here's my Xbox though. So I bought the Xbox One, the big fat one, on release day back in 2014. I think it was April or September. Can't remember. So I bought that, had that for yonks. Then the Series S came out. 1S, not Series S. The 1S came out, which was the smaller white one, which they had a trade-in deal, which meant I traded in my Xbox and a couple games. I think it was like Destiny 1 or something I wasn't playing. And I got some credit. I paid about $20 and I walked away with 2 new games and an Xbox One S for about $20. And that was like Christmas time, like whatever it was, a year or two later. Had the One S for ages. And then this year or last year, I think it was last year, and then they had another trade-in deal. So I took the 1S there. The only game I kept from my 1S is Mirror's Edge Catalyst, as that was a gift. Traded that in, and then got a PS4, not 5, PS4, because there was like some Naughty Dog games to play, like Uncharted and stuff. Persona 5 looked sick. Ni no Kuni 2, because I played Ni no Kuni 1 on PS3. Really, really good RPG. It's got childish overtones, but it plays really well, same as Persona 5. And then stuff like Ghost of Tsushima came out a little bit later. I played that a little bit. Didn't finish it because it was good, but not quite good enough to warrant me finishing. I've finished very few games. Yeah. So then I didn't have an Xbox. Then I got the game review job. They sent me a One X, which I've still got. So that was used for that, and I played a lot of games on that. So now a lot of my library at that point was digital anyway. So if you're like me and a lot of your thing is digital anyway, just get the Series S. It's tinier, it's I think a little bit quieter, and I believe it still has roughly the same performance, if not the same performance. You've just taken out the disc tray and it's a discless, digital-only console if you're trying to go that route. Similar to how like I bought a Kindle to get rid of my books and kind of digitize my library and go a little bit paperless where I can, because that removes so much clutter. Like that table everyone has in their kitchen, which is just full of, there's the water bill, there's some infomercial, there's a pizza delivery menu, there's a random magazine and some business cards from a guy who rocked up at the door 3 days ago. Gets rid of all of that. If for some reason you want to keep all this junk mail and business cards, you can literally snap a photo, Google Drive it, and you've archived every piece of paper you ever receive. So that's a little tangent on paper. But that gets rid of a lot of physical games, and then I literally only went with the Series X, because there are still some games, like if they come out with Mirror's Edge 3, I want a physical version of that. I want the collector's edition. If you're watching the video version, you'll see in the back I've got the Faith statue from Catalyst, which was also a gift. Shout out Zach. Great gift. Where was I? So yes, Series X, if you want to get those collector's editions for, keep a physical one for those ones. But if you literally you don't care, and like you're the kind of person who would normally buy a game and trade it in, you could probably go with the digital version. But that's another point for like Series X versus Series S. You don't get cheap games. Even the sales they have on the Xbox store, they're never that great. Sony wins that battle in terms of how many discounts a year they give out. You'll never get a cheap game ever again if you go Series S. Series X, you can pick up bargain bin stuff. You've got the backwards compatibility, all that kind of thing. So that's something to definitely consider, is how you pick, choose, and consume your games before you make that decision. Bear in mind as well, if you're going to take advantage of the 4K 120 FPS, which is available with a day one patch, I think, on supported games, obviously. Like when they introduced the last generation, it's like 4K was only available on specific supported titles. So 120 4K is available on specific supported titles. Your TV has to have HDMI 2.1 or you'll be stuck on 4K 30 or 4K 60, which 4K 60 is still fantastic, depending what kind of game you're playing. But I don't think it actually does 4K 30. I think 4K 60 is like the standard minimum now. So there's all that. A lot of the ports on the back have been taken out. There's no more HDMI pass-through. And then you've got the slot for the new SSDs, which are coming out, which I'm very, very excited for. But the thing is, Xbox and Nintendo are slightly guilty. This Sony, I haven't seen them do this as much, but Xbox and Nintendo have a bad habit of being like, here's a micro SD card in Nintendo's case, or in Xbox's case, here's an external hard drive to store all those amazing games. So if you're buying like a 256 gig thing for your Switch, Nintendo like to say, here is a Nintendo branded SD card with no extra performance benefits, but actually might be slightly worse in performance, to be honest with you. So it'd be like SanDisk Nintendo Switch SD card, which is the exact same thing as a regular SanDisk or any other brand of SD card ever. And it's like twice the price. Xbox do the same thing, 2 terabyte external HDD, so the slower one, it's just green and says Xbox on it, twice the price. Just literally, for the price you pay for a 2 terabyte like Xbox branded external drive for mass storage, you could probably go out and get a 6 to 8 terabyte thing that you plug in over USB. It's madness. Sony, I've only seen a couple random external drives, but I actually don't see them as much as Xbox and Nintendo. So Xbox and Nintendo, get your shiz together. So there's that. So there's the performance and the SSDs, which are obviously going to be overpriced. I know Sony with the PS5 are also introducing external storage supported things. So it's faster. But I don't know if the trade-off that you get in speed is worth going for a proprietary card. So I don't know if you getting the little SSD that goes in the back of the Xbox is going to be better than if you were to run a 1 terabyte external SSD off of USB 3.0, which I believe is available on the back. That would make sense. It's 2020. Why would you go with anything less than USB 3.0 or 3.1 even? Okay, so that's the SSD. It's meant to be quick. I don't know how quick. And if it is that quick, I don't think any game really needs it to be that quick. Like on a PC, going from a PC or a 360 to like Xbox One, the difference in HDD to SSD became very apparent very quickly in flash storage. But then you go from like, I won't go into like transfer speeds, but if you go from like an SSD entry level transfer speed, so like the first thing you would go to, like what the Xbox One had, so straight from an HDD, the first tier SSD, that's a massive jump in performance. You go SSD 1 to 2, okay, still pretty good. You go 2 to 3, and now it's like the game's not going to load that much quicker. The game's not going to like run quicker or anything like that. Like after a while, there's no point in it being quicker. So depending what they price these SSDs at will really determine, guess what people do. I can guarantee someone on eBay or someone else will hack a adapter for that slot, which will then just allow you to plug in a SATA, regular M.2 SSD in there, or a regular SSD in there, and that'll change the market. So they're either going to have to put some kind of software on there that Microsoft only recognizes when you plug in that slot kind of thing, or people will just go make their own SSDs, and you'll have people rocking 2, 3, 4 terabyte ones, and they've only paid like $100, $150, $200, something like that. So there's the performance. Playing right now, I'm only playing Valhalla. There's a couple of backwards compatible titles and some sports titles, but I'm all about that Valhalla because we're reviewing that soon, and I love Assassin's Creed. So the ability to actually get into the story that much quicker, I'm very excited for. That's about all I can say on the games, which sucks, but that's that. Graphics-wise, I thought I wouldn't notice how much the graphics improved moving from PC to One to Series X now. PC you notice to a certain degree, but I run an ultra-wide monitor, so I can only crank the detail so high. And stuff like Assassin's Creed and Call of Duty is pretty performance heavy in terms of what kind of horsepower you need to run it. But the level of fidelity and graphics I've seen on the Series X is actually ridiculous. So you're playing it, and playing Valhalla, you can see the individual pores on people's faces. You can see the reflection of sweat. So there'll be like a cutscene after a battle. You'll see the sweat on his face, and then he'll move his head to like talk to someone, and you can see the reflection of the sun setting, moving across his face and glistening. Someone will die, and instead of just a lot of games used to go with someone dies, you kill them, you've slashed at them or shot them. It's just immediately blood spray, and the spray hits the ground, and it's like instant. This time you can actually watch the blood pool around things, and eventually the body despawns, but you can see the blood pool, and that was really cool. Trails in the snow last for ages, which is really cool. And then you've got the mechanic again with the Raven. But the graphics were insane. Like, even on some of my PC titles, I haven't quite seen that yet, except for modded Skyrim, which is really funny. Putting 4 8K textures on Skyrim, they look sick. But obviously, for the modern consumer, if you're not into all that kind of modding scene and actually enjoying the process of modding, a Series X or PS5 will do really well, and the graphics really well. I'm very interested to see, specifically with Valhalla, a PS5 Series X PC side-by-side to see what that's like. Because I think the big thing people get caught up in with consoles, and that becomes the biggest war in terms of PS5 versus Series X versus PC. PC always comes out on top in terms of performance and things like that, but people are always comparing two things. Is it running at 4K? Is it running at 60 FPS or 120? That's literally it. The things you don't see on a console, but I think that may be changing with a couple different menu options that are coming in an update, is you don't see the draw distance slider. You don't see the texture quality slider. You don't see the anti-aliasing slider, the HDR. All these different settings that we can adjust on PC to make it work for your PC, because not everyone has the latest and greatest PC hardware every single time. You don't see that on a console. So while if I make Ivor stand in the same spot on all 3 platforms, and you're looking at the snow, you're looking at the paws on his face, the blood on the axe, the blood pooling on the ground kind of thing. You don't see the other things and how else it performs. And that's usually where PC comes out on top. But they're getting very close with consoles, and that scares me quite a bit. I'm like, there's this freaking box, this consumer box, and normally it's the consumer thing that sucks. You know, if you buy a pre-made PC, it can be okay, but usually sucks for the price. And now we're getting weirdly blurred. So that means custom-built PC hardware has to take a massive leap in like the next 3 to 4 years. So that's going to be interesting to see how they go about that. The other thing that a lot of people have noted with the PS4 and the Xbox One X and S and regular one is the noise. So you'll boot it up and you'll be playing something that's released on the latter quarter of last gen's lifespan. So something like Ghost of Tsushima or Call of Duty Modern Warfare remake. The fan kicks up a freaking storm. Whereas if you were to go back and play like Mirror's Edge Catalyst, which released like second quarter of last gen, silent. Because the demand is a lot less. And there's a lot less tech and graphical stuff going on than now when we're bridging next gen, 4K 120 and 8K and all that kind of stuff. Now the fan kicks up a massive storm. It's so loud. If you're not using headphones, you're screwed at that point. So get a good noise cancelling gaming headset if you're playing on console and your fan's kicking up a fuss. But the one is silent. We filmed the review recently and we brought the shotgun mic pretty much as close as you could while staying out of shot of the one. And we're like, did you turn it on? Did you forget to turn it on? No, it's running. You put your hand there. You can feel the breeze, but it's dead silent. I made a point to play Valhalla with speakers for a bit, at least for like the first hour and a bit, just to see if the fan was going to kick up. Nothing yet. It's dead silent. I love it. Also love the fact that I can stick this in vertical mode because now I could fit almost all of my next gen consoles and last gen in one cubicle on my shelf, all side by side. Horrible for airflow. Don't do that, but I could do that for display purposes. So absolutely silent. In terms of the stuff I want to see happen with next gen gaming, which I don't know that I will. So PlayStation obviously have PSVR. I want to see Xbox enter the VR scene because PlayStation VR is good. It's expensive though, but VR is always going to be expensive, I think. Which is, again, one of the reasons I haven't jumped into it on PC specifically just yet. I haven't seen, the benefit of going to VR is not great yet. I really wanted to jump into PS4 VR with Skyrim because you could dual cast a spell but actually move your hands, which was a weird advantage you can't do regularly. So it actually added a gameplay mechanic that was specific to VR. Everything else is just experiencing the game in a different perspective. There's no gameplay mechanic advantage to having VR, which would be good, but then there's the other thing. I don't like it when games are released VR only. So I love Half-Life. Half-Life Alyx came out. I can only watch a playthrough online. I can't play it because I'm not going to go spring on a Oculus Quest or a Rift or a Vive or a Index. Steam Index or Valve Index would have been the next one, which actually looks pretty cool, which is what I think Alyx was meant to be a launch title for because it's made to run that. So I want to see Xbox get into VR in a budget way that maybe you can keep the gameplay mechanic advantages but introduce like a whole new thing. Like you've got the Series S and X, do the same thing for VR. Make one that just puts you in there and gives you the virtual reality perspective, and then have another one that's got room sensors and grip controllers, and you can do the multicasting Skyrim thing because you've got all that movement. But then have another one that I can just jump in and play Valhalla with goggles on. I don't need to be facing the TV or that kind of thing. You can kind of be doing your thing, which is really cool. And that could be like a controller attachment, maybe plugged into the wall or on batteries or something. That's pretty much my only hope in terms of, I think, stuff I want to see Xbox do. I think it's almost guaranteed that a PS5 Pro will come out about halfway or 2/3 out of release. So probably in like 4 years, you'll see a PS3, 4 years, you see a PS5 Pro. and then we'll get like a Series X Slim or a Series X. They won't go Pro because Sony's coveted that title, but you get like a Series X. You'll get a Series X Mark II. They'll do something cool like that, like camera lenses and bodies do. You get a Mark II version. There's always another version. Switch came out, Switch Lite. I'm waiting for them to come with like a Pro model because there are still some performance issues and some build quality issues on a Switch, which piss me off. Joy-Cons are a broken mechanic. They need to fix that. They need like metal railings on that because they're broken. They just break so easily. Mine disconnect without even pressing the disengage lock button now. It's so annoying. So there's that. So Series X out on the 10th. Go check it out. I did a review for Telstra. If I remember, I will leave it linked down below. Go check that out. Show that some love. Support me in my game review career. That'd be fantastic. So we unboxed it. We did the whole thing on that. So games I'm excited to play in next gen. Now that's a whole other category that we could go on for a little while here. So we probably will. After some tea. So games I'm excited for. Got a little list here. I'm sure that'll put me out on a tangent for other things that haven't been announced yet and I'm still waiting on. Number one, I say this is for next gen, but I had a friend gift me the pre-order like last year, I think, or the year before. So I'll be playing this on PC, but I'm excited to see what it can do on next gen because it seems to be pushing the limitations of even PC hardware. So I would like to see what, if anything, they have to dial back on console. And that's Cyberpunk 2077 releasing, insert moved date here, because God knows that could move to April 2022 at the flick of a hat if we're not careful. So I'm really keen for that. I've been keen for that for a while. I dig the cyberpunk vibe, as it were, the futuristic yet grungy feel that you would have seen in like Blade Runner and stuff like that. I think that's a really cool thing. To be able to explore the city, I like the customization. Body modifications is very Deus Ex, which is one of my favorite games ever. Also one of the games that I said, if they come out with prosthetics identical to Deus Ex, so same function, same style, specifically in either Adam Jensen's or in Human Evolution, there's a boss guy you have at the start in like a suit and he's got like a fleur-de-lis floral pattern on his. If they literally come out with one that is that pattern with that function and that angular style, I will voluntarily amputate my arm, give it to me. I want it. It looks dope. I don't know what it is. I'd even take it at the shoulder. They'll just look sick coming out of like a vest. So there's Cyberpunk, which I'm very excited for if you can't tell. The next game, we're going to go into some history about my relationship with the series, which I did do a video similar to this a while back called Why Oblivion is So Good, or Why I Love Oblivion or something, whatever I titled it. Did so well. I think it's another thing I went really raw and emotional with that one. It's a very heart-to-heart type of thing. Elder Scrolls 6. I think a lot of people are excited for this game. A lot of people are worried for this game. I think Todd Howard may or may not have stepped down from Bethesda, or at least the production team at this point. Because I think one of the biggest worries was if he's still working on the game, not like work for Bethesda, that's fine. If he's still got like a really big foot in or leg in the production of Elder Scrolls 6, people are worried we're going to have a Fallout 76 repeat or a Skyrim repeat. Now, Skyrim was a great game, but then we had a repeat of it releasing 17 times after the fact. Fallout 76 could be a good game and might be currently a good game, but when it released and preceding months, it was not. NPCs were a DLC. It was a fairly lonely game. The ability to play single player was a paid DLC or a subscription service you had to do, which was awfully nightmarish. I've played a little bit of 76. I like the fact that it's got a similar, not setting to 4, but the vibe and the overall UI and all that kind of stuff is very similar to 4. So it's a well-known environment. You've got still the base building mechanics and stuff like that. So you got the base building stuff, survival elements, and all that kind of thing, and you can buddy up with your friends. But obviously, and I have the discussion with a lot of people, and that's some people's tropes with MMOs specifically, more with like Elder Scrolls Online, not so much World of Warcraft. You can't have that annoyance with World of Warcraft because there was never a single player World of Warcraft. There was never just a single player RPG. Elder Scrolls bridged. Well, it came out in 2014, in development to 2007. But 2014, it was supposedly supposed to bridge Skyrim and 6. But for some people, that's not quite their cup of tea. So the way a system in a MMO works is very, very different. I'll see if I can give a brief rundown of how the MMO ecosystem works. They're all fairly similar. So similarly, like if an RPG, how it worked, not so much in 1990, but like maybe 2010, an RPG now works very similar. You've got X amount of attributes, which then lead to X amount of skills, and that's how you progress. You could be proficient in a longbow and all that kind of stuff. You know how that system works. It's relatively similar to Skyrim and Oblivion and Morrowind, and you go back a bit further, it changes. So that's how a single-player RPG system works. You use the skill, you upgrade, all that kind of stuff. You can just progress through the story and do quests and dungeons in your own time. It's a good time. The way an MMO works is a bit different now. So depending how deep you go into a single-player RPG, there are obviously race bonuses and all that kind of stuff if you're trying to like build the most efficient class, that kind of thing. When it gets to an MMO, your race will determine armors you can and can't use, weapons you can and can't use, factions you can and can't join, and then that also leads into how you build your character. So it is very plausible to want to play Elder Scrolls Online or World of Warcraft and build your character however the hell you think you want to, and then just kind of leave it at that. But if you're going to play it to do the end game, which is what all MMOs are about, whether that's World of Warcraft, Elder Scrolls Online, or even Destiny, which culls back on a lot of those MMO mechanics a bit, it's all about the end game. Diablo, even. It's all about the end game. We're now in the end game. So it's level up to max level. So let's take Elder Scrolls for example, because I'm actually not familiar that much with World of Warcraft. I think I got to like 25 and left it at that. So Elder Scrolls, you get to level 50, which is your regular level, and then you go into what's called champion ranks, which goes from 1 to 810, and then you get a different set of skills. But the goal then is to have built or to build, like you can respec if you want, is to then build out a character that fits one of 3 roles. And these 3 roles apply to every single MMO that has pretty much ever been made. You've got a tank whose main role in a raid, which we'll get to in a minute, is to attract all of the attention to you. You want the enemy to be attacking you. You're going to take all of the brunt so everyone else can do their work. That's essentially, you're going to have high HP, really heavy armor. You're going to be a big beefy dude. That's the classical one. Then you've got a healer. Mainly, you're going to make sure the tank doesn't die. So the tank's going to have high HP anyway, so he's going to be able to withstand a lot. But now you've got to top him up if you're a healer. So you're topping him up, you're topping everyone up, but primarily you're going to focus on the tank. So your magicka-based healing magic, staves, things like that. Then you got the DPS. So a really good setup, and I think a lot of dungeons in Elder Scrolls Online set you up that way. So I think you can do a 4-man raid dungeon. So the optimal one's going to be 1 tank, 1 healer, 2 DPS. Because in that scenario, then you've got a tank, takes the brunt, healer goes in, heals the tank, heals everyone else, whoever needs it, whatever, heals themselves. 1 DPS can then focus on the boss, and then the other DPS can flex between boss and random small enemies. And just clear all those out, make sure everyone's clean and safe. So DPS, damage per second. So you're just wailing away. You're meant to be able to deal the most amount of damage every second to whittle away at the health so you can defeat the boss. That's your little ecosystem of roles in an MMO. So Elder Scrolls Online, you're trying to fit one of those. There's a lot more variety in Elder Scrolls Online versus World of Warcraft in terms of what character can be what. I literally think you can do anything. In terms of, I'm pretty sure you can be a thief assassin with dual daggers as a tank, or DPS, or a healer. Maybe not healer, but there's a lot of flex in terms of what characters, races, and classes can do what. So if you don't fit those 3 roles, 1, you're going to get kicked from every dungeon, but 2, you're also not going to be able to get the most out of the game anyway. So the problem then is every DLC that releases, yes, you might finish the main core storyline, all the side quests, like Somerset and Elder Scrolls Online, for example, added a new jewelry crafting skill. You might max that out or whatever. You're still missing out on, like, I'd say easily 60% of the content if you're not engaging in these raids and multiplayer dungeons and public dungeons, and you've got world bosses. So raids, for example, in these things are usually 8-man dungeons that are ridiculously difficult. Destiny has them as well. And then you've got Elder Scrolls specific, you've got world bosses, which you'll have the big overall map of the area you're in. A skull and crossbones will appear. That'll be a world boss, which is just a very difficult boss, which you'll need probably 2 to 4 people to kill properly, but then everyone gets a loot. And there's some other world events. So the MMOs encourage social interaction, not necessarily in this format of talking, but just teaming up and teamwork to really encourage that to defeat bosses to increase your loot, which is a good life lesson almost. You want to accomplish a big task, which has a big payout, get a couple of buddies and split the workload, or else you're not going to be able to do it at all. Can and can't be good advice. So that was the biggest issue with Elder Scrolls Online, which wasn't the big thing. And that's the issue people have with MMOs and why it was bridging Skyrim and Elder Scrolls 6, which I think was the point I was trying to make. So there's that. I can't remember where I was now. So people don't want Todd Howard because he's going to screw all that up. Yeah, and we want Elder Scrolls 6. We have no news on it. I'm going to get slewed now because I completely lost that train of thought after I went into how an MMO works. So we want Elder Scrolls 6. We have no news on it. Last E3 didn't give us anything. I think the one before we got the little 30-second animation clip, which just said Elder Scrolls 6. I think we've ascertained that it's going to be called Redfall, but we don't know yet. So there's that. And then, yeah, I've just spent a lot of time with Elder Scrolls over the years. It's been one of, next to Mirror's Edge, probably one of the biggest titles I play and have played over the years. And that's probably one of the biggest bonding sessions I've had with my best mates, Zach. Again, I went into this Why I Love Oblivion or Why Oblivion is So Good video. We used to play co-op in it. So one person's on the mouse, one person on the keyboard, and it's the recipe for utter chaos. You've got one guy's like, but I want to run over here, but he's like, no, I want to use the bow. We're going to shoot this guy, but no, we got to run. We got low health, and it's chaos, but it's good. It's really good fun. And Oblivion was just one of those titles where we were young enough to have that innocent childishness that didn't play the game properly, and then later on we actually figured out what we were doing wrong and did it properly, all single player, all that kind of stuff. And then we enjoyed Skyrim pretty separately. And then I think he got really into Fallout again. I know he's doing his own thing. So a lot of history there with Elder Scrolls. If Todd Howard screwed this up, I'm going to find him in California. Pour boiling, scalding hot tea on him. I don't know. Because, Oblivion, even though there's so much screw around in terms of the market, in terms of the marketing and how they handle release and maybe some bugs, overall, the games are really good. Elder Scrolls, not Fallout here. Morrowind, really, really good. Time and time again, I go back and play that. Oblivion, same thing again. Skyrim, same thing again. So even though we might have a lot of screw around in terms of releasing Skyrim 17 times, or there's just a huge gap, because this will be the biggest gap we've had between Elder Scrolls games ever. So Oblivion released in 2006. Morrowind came out 2003 or 2000. I think it was 2003. And then Skyrim came out 2011. So that's your time frames now. Now we've got 2011 to 2020. 8 years without a new Elder Scrolls games. 9 years. 9 years without another Elder Scrolls game. And we're moving into 2021, which we don't have released it yet. If it was coming out next year, we would have had by now, I think. I mean, there's still time for them to do that at E3 2021 and be like, coming fall 21 kind of thing. But for the most part, because Bethesda have another game called Starfield on the way, which I think releases next year, we probably won't see 6 until 22, 23, more likely 24, 25 if we're being realistic, which then we're looking at 14 years between an Elder Scrolls game, which is insane. The problem with that becomes the last time we had, I think, well, maybe not the last time, but one of the times we've had such a big gap between games was Duke Nukem Forever. That's a problem because that game was garbage. I'd literally rather play with a bag of garbage from someone's bin than play Duke Nukem Forever. And I forced myself to finish it, which sucks. So there's that. I'm really keen to see what Assassin's Creed does next. So obviously I'm playing through Valhalla at the moment. I'm trying to figure out the story and piece it together. I don't know. Like for all we know and for all I know, because I'm only like a couple hours in, Valhalla could end it all. Valhalla could be like, okay, cool, the world blew up and everyone's dead now. That's it for Assassin's Creed. Because at the moment, they're at a really good place where they can wrap up this trilogy we've made. So like we did with Ezio, 2, Brotherhood, Revelations. That was a really good trilogy. And now we have another one, not necessarily with the same protagonist inside the Animus, but it's outside, it's Layla. So they could wrap her story up pretty well there, but then it's very interesting to see where they go next. And it's not uncommon with the Assassin's Creed games that within 2 months of release, so this comes out Tuesday the 10th, and then technically the 12th for PS5, because they don't come out for a couple of other days after that. It's not uncommon, like in a month or two, you'll see Assassin's Creed. Where haven't they gone yet? Like, where could they go next? They could go to... because they did China, Russia, and India in Chronicles, which is a good little arcadey game. You should go play that. Like, they could do Australia, maybe, if they wanted to, but that's just really strange. They could jump to the 21st century and have the entire game played in modern day. World War II. Conflict Desert Storm, if they want to go that kind of route, but then that's like guns and no sword. I don't know, maybe Solid Snake is a freaking assassin after all these years. But I'm very keen to see where they take the series next in terms of story, because they've set it up very easily to completely end what Assassin's Creed is with Valhalla. Which, there is some similar... Valhalla's Viking Heaven. Have they sent the game to heaven with this one? We don't know. I guess, I'll let you know in 30 hours when I finish the game, or 60 hours when I finish the narrative, where it ends up. And that'll be very, very interesting. After that, we have the Harry Potter RPG that was announced. Now, Harry Potter RPG, holy crap. It's what I've wanted since I was a kid. I played all the games first on PC, which up until 4, so 1, 2, and 3 were all completely different games to their GameCube, PS2, Xbox counterparts. And then Game Boy and DS were very different as well. But then you got to 4, and then they standardized it, they're all the same, and then they went to garbage after 3. 4 was a mess. 5 and 6 were okay, but not great. And then 7 was like a cover-based shooter, which was just awful. So yeah, they announced an open world RPG where you're going to like... I don't know if they've announced if it's going to be an MMO or a single player RPG, or a single player RPG with like co-op elements. But there's going to be make your own wizard, explore London, explore Hogsmeade. It's going to be huge world, travel, all that kind of stuff. So I'm very keen for that, because that's like a childhood dream for me, to have a make your own wizard game in the wizard world. They can still reference Harry Potter, and you've got all the teachers at Hogwarts. So it depends how much of a time commitment the schooling versus the adulthood is. Because I don't want it to be that in like 5 hours, Hogwarts is complete. I want it to be like a solid 60 to 100 hours you have to spend in Hogwarts, and then you unlock the open world that is London and the rest of everything else, the other wizarding schools. And then you can spend another 100 hours doing that easily. And then depending how they go, if that's a single player thing, then that can be that, and then you've got all the side missions. If that's an MMO, then you've got Beast to take down, Quidditch to play. You could go and become a professional Quidditch player or whatever. And then there's raids and dungeons they could do instead. So there's that. FIFA, again, FIFA 21, I think. Well, it's already out, but I might pick it up later. I have a tendency to pick it up way too close to the release of the next one. So I might even skip FIFA 21 just for the sake of its bridging a console. And then I'll get FIFA 22, because then the console will really found its feet and fixed any bugs in the system. I just have a habit of picking up FIFAs just because it's a really good chill game. I want them to bring old school Ultimate Team back. That's my other thing, because now, once everyone gets their Ronaldos and their Messis and their Neymars, the game's pretty much gone. It's no longer skill-based at that point. And then the next one, or the last game that I'm excited for, is Fable. Now, Fable and I have a long history. When I first got an Xbox original in like 2008, 9, Fable was the first game I was gifted by my dad. And then I played the shit out of that game. It was so good. And then I moved on to 360, got Fable 2, and then eventually 3. And then I went back on PC and played the Lost Chapters. So I love Fable, played them all repetitively, time and time again. So there's lots for me to do there. And And I'm very excited where they go next, because Lionhead Studios cancelled, and then Microsoft bought Fable, and now we're getting a Fable reboot, not Fable 4. So it's really up in the air whether the quality is going to be as good or where it's going to sit. But I'm going to play it regardless, because I skipped the weird Kinect knockoff we had, because that's just garbage. Get that out of here. And yeah, so those are the games I'm excited for. Let me know in the comments or in an email if you're listening on the podcast on Spotify or Apple Music, in an email. Or go find the video and go watch that and leave a comment, or find me on social media. What games are you excited for next gen? What games are you not excited for? What are you like? Are you in the same? Like, do you hope they don't screw up Fable or Elder Scrolls? Go let me know that. Because we're going to move on to the next topic, which is my weird obsession with productivity, because I still used to procrastinate so much. So all through high school, all until like probably a month or two ago, procrastination was key. I'd be like, cool, all right, wake up today. I've got to do some laundry. I've got to clean the house. I've got to write this report. I've got to go to the gym. I've got to read this book and all that kind of stuff. And then I'll get up and I'll be like, all right, so Call of Duty. And then I'll play that for fucking 6 hours. So I've recently got really obsessed with the idea of being super productive. And I have Mr. Ali Abdaal to thank for that. A little bit of Gary Vee, which we'll get to in a minute as well. But yeah, Ali Abdaal, I watch a lot of his videos. And I listen to his podcast a lot, Not Overthinking. After you listen to this and every other episode that currently is out of this podcast, then you can go listen to his. But it's really good. They tackle some really cool personal development stuff. Deep questions for the mind, I guess. And yeah, he's inspired me to be a little bit more productive, a little bit better in life every day, which I think we can all extrapolate from and, be a bit better, do more, all that kind of thing, and do the things we know we have to do when they need to be done and not push them off to the last freaking minute, which is what I've done. So now I've got, since watching all these things, and obviously I went over the iPad and how it's a real big key factor in terms of how productive I am and what I get done. I've got a little morning and night routine. Night routines are still a bit in the air, but the morning routine I've got down pat now. And one of the portions of the morning routine will be the next segment we go into in really detail. But so you get up, I get up about 7:30. I will then go grab 2 notebooks, my iPad, my water bottle. I'll go down. I will put the kettle on boil, because I have a gooseneck kettle to make coffee with that needs to go on the stove. It's not electric, so it still takes a few minutes to boil. While that's boiling, I completely clean the kitchen, empty the dishwasher, empty the dish rack, wipe down the counters, put everything in the bin that needs to be emptied, empty the bins into the bins outside if that needs to be done, sweep the floor, then I can sit down. But usually by that point, the water's boiled and I'll make my pour over coffee, grind the coffee, get the filter, rinse it, brew it, make a big 350 ml of coffee. Then I'll sit down with that. Then, and this is where the rest of it comes key, because 2 of the things that I do in my morning routine constantly get interrupted by work, and then I can't do them, and then I get really, really annoyed. So one of them being I will write a to-do list in a notebook that I don't have readily available. To-do list in a notebook. I completely write everything out that needs to be done. I don't go into so much detail, like I have to pull clothes from the bathroom floor into the hamper. And the next one is laundry hamper down to the... No, so that'll just be laundry, and then I'll have... I've got to write this script, I've got to film this video, I've got to edit this video, I've got to run some cash to the bank, I've got to cancel this subscription, just random errands and tasks, some more important than others. But the weird thing is I write them out of order, tendency, even though a few of the things are done every day. So I'll write the to-do list, and then one of the things on that to-do list is morning pages. Now, morning pages is, I don't know if he came up with it, but I heard it from Tim Ferriss, who is a productivity and life coach guru guy. He's really inspiring to watch and listen to and read his stuff. Author of the 4-Hour Workweek, which I own, but I'm still yet to read. But I watch all this stuff. So the idea with morning pages is actually scratch that. We'll go through the rest of the productivity stuff. Morning pages is the next thing, but we'll get to it. So I do morning pages as a journaling of sorts. Write all that, and then that gets ticked off. And then I do a typing speed test. I'll do a couple of those, and then the best of those I'll do 3, and then the best of those 3 I'll screenshot it and upload it into a picture in an app called Notion, which is another one of my productivity tricks, which I'll tell you about in a second as well. After I do the typing test, I will then listen to one episode of Not Overthinking by Ali Abdaal, which I will take notes on in Notion. I will then read for 20 minutes a book, most likely non-fiction. At the moment, it is Your Money or Your Life. It's a book about finances. And then I'm kind of free to tackle the rest of the tasks on the list, or for whatever reason, if there aren't any, kind of do what I want. And I use Notion for that. Now, Notion is one of my favorite apps I've ever found to date. I've got a lot of productivity stuff. Like if I open up, I've got stuff like YouTube Studio, which helps me helps me monitor analytics. I've got Flipboard, which is a great news app. I've got Squarespace and Squarespace Analytics, which help me monitor the website. LinkedIn, which helps me manage all that kind of business stuff. BBC News, More News. Speechify, which can read documents to you, and books and websites and pictures and stuff like that, which is really cool. Calendar app. That's pretty much all the productivities. Audible is another really good one, but Notion is key to everything. So the deal with Notion, it's a note-taking app. That's the basis of it, but it's broken up into, you've got your note-taking section on the right side, and then you've got a little like file explorer on the left, which is a bunch of notebooks you can make, and it is infinite. You can make notebook with a notebook with a notebook with a notebook with a notebook, and you can keep going infinitely down like that. So then I've got one just called Projects, and within Projects I will have one called Typing Speed, which has a calendar layout, and then I can screenshot my typing speed, drop it in here on a daily basis, number them, and then you can see I can track my progress over time, which is really helpful. I've got another one next down. It's called my Resonance Calendar, which is another idea pulled from Ali Abdaal, which I put in list view, it's an interesting concept. So essentially what you do is every time something resonates with you, which is where Resonance Calendar comes from, and by that I mean like you're scrolling through Facebook or Reddit or YouTube, or you're looking at recipes and you just find that white macadamia choc chip cookie recipe. That's sick. I made it. I never want to lose that. I want to make that, every day for the rest of my life. You can hit the share button on your phone, which is the little box with an arrow. And then there is an extension to share it directly into Notion. And you can pick what notebook it goes into. You pick your Resonance Calendar. When you pick that, it will date the entry for you. You can then add tags to it, so that if you're adding 10 things to this thing a day, over a year, you're going to want to search it. You can search then by whatever tags you made. So I've got ones for productivity, business, education, science, philosophy, lifestyle, creativity, self-help, tech, Apple, all that kind of crap. And then you can collate these things. And it's really good because a lot of apps have something similar. So YouTube has Watch Later, Facebook has Save for Later, all that kind of stuff. Reddit has something similar, I think. But now you've segregated it into all these different apps. Here I can take all of those, reshare them into here, and then every app and article thing that I ever read can be collated here for years and years to come for me to read and look back on. So like if there was a specific episode of Ask Gary V that I liked, and I could save that to my YouTube account, that's one thing. But if I push it into here and I find it later, I'll be like, oh, why did I save that? I could put notes on it in here. I could add tags. What did I like about it? What resonated with me specifically? Same with, like, I've got some couple things here. I'll read one from Medium, which is 3 hours of creative flow every day is all you need to change your life. The ultimate guide to writing online. Could an ancient mega shark still lurk in the deep seas? Literally does not matter. It doesn't have to be as scientific and philosophical and productive and educational as these. You could be super into games. Your Resonance Calendar could just be every article that gets released for a game you want to follow. And then you can just follow from there. And then in like 3 years, you'd be like, oh, what was that? Oh, there was a recipe for choc chip white macadamia cookies that I had. Oh, my geez ago. I'll search my Resonance Calendar. You type in macadamia, it'll probably come up. And you've got all that there. And it's really, really cool. And then I've just got an ideas one, which at the moment just contains nothing. It's literally just, I have a board on it. And you've got a column that has idea. And then I've got a column that says draft. And then I have a column that says video and then article. So in the ideas one, I could literally populate whatever I want. I'd be like, I did a review on a plant or a phone. And then I can leave it in there. When I'm ready to put a script on that idea, I can then drag it into the drafts column. Once the script is finalized, I can drag it into the video column. Once the video's edited and ready to upload, I can then drag it into the article column, upload the video, and then start writing a blog article about that. But at the moment, I'm not using that right now. I have a business one that just has, inside of that business notebook, you've got 2 notebooks. One is client information. The other one is just new business ideas. I've got a reading list, which is really interesting. So I've got 2 different views. I've got the default view is a list with columns you can sort by. So I've got like, I'll have the book title, the author, amount of pages, approximate time to read, all that kind of stuff, and then like genre. And then I have a gallery one, which is just a bunch of tiles. If you think of it like an iTunes library with like the album cover. And essentially whatever book I'm reading at the time, I will populate the image with the book cover. And then in that, I will have 3 questions about the book. 3 questions, and I'll add tags to the book so I can search that, as well as the price of the book that gets added. So I'll summarize the book in 3 sentences. So if you were going to explain this to someone really quickly, what would be the 3 sentences? How would you do that? What did I get out of this book? What did I extrapolate? Did I get some new worldviews? Did I have some new habits I pulled? And then 3, like if it's a fiction book, like 3 favorite bits. Like, was there a cool scene where Aragorn slain the troll or whatever? Or 3 favorite quotes if it's nonfiction. And then that helps me collate that. And then if anyone, not that anyone ever does this to me anymore, because it's 2020, but if anyone's like, do you have a book recommendation? I can be like, yeah, here's why, and here's my favorite bits, all that kind of stuff. So that's how I do that. I've got finance stuff. That's about that. I need to go into that. I have a journaling tab, which is, again, I think I'll get to it, but a calendar view, and then I can track journals over time. I have a video tab, which works the same as my ideas tab, but I'll have separated it into YouTube and Telstra. So all my videos for Telstra then have that board design from idea to draft to script to record to upload. Similar thing with my YouTube. I then have a fitness one, which has a list view and a calendar view. So I can list, every workout I've ever done. They're all tagged depending if it's a running workout, a sprinting workout, a weightlifting, calisthenics, stretching, yoga. And then I make a notebook in that, and then you've got the workout. And then I've got that in calendar view as well, so you can track what days I worked out. I have a section where I'm writing Skillshare courses, so that's something to keep an eye on. I won't go too much into that. I started one for New Year's resolutions, so I can write them. So I've got one ready. I didn't do one for 2020 because I only started using this app like 2 months ago. But I got a page there for 2021 for stuff I want to do for that year. And then I can track it, and then that'll have multiple years. I have 2 separate notebooks for podcasts. One is for podcasts I'm listening to and taking notes on. So I've got a book in the book of podcasts called Not Overthinking, where I take notes on every episode they do. Notes, I'll make questions, I'll write down books that they recommend I read, I'll tag every single episode. And then you've got my podcast, which at the moment is just winging it. And then in that, you open the just winging it one, and you've got each episode breakdown, and then you've got within each episode breakdown, you have 2 separate notebooks again, which is one is show notes, and then one is me writing the accompanying blog post or posts. Still yet to decide how I'm going to tackle that for that one. And that is every notebook I use within Notion. So if we're back in my show notes, if I scroll down to what I was going to talk about next. Yes, so that's my only productivity app that I use on a daily basis that I recommend everyone download, considering it has so many good features. You can code in this app as well, if that's your thing. Like, there's so much you can do. You literally download it and just look at it. At the beginning of the year, I think it was, you had to pay like $80 a year to use it or something, and now it's completely free, and it's so good. And it's not like free, but for the first 30 days, then it's $12.99 a month. No, free. There is no paid features in this app that I'm aware of. I've been using it for 2 months. There's nothing's popped up saying you got to pay for this. No, completely free, and it's really, really good. Yes. So, and then the reason I've been starting to get so productive, one comes back to the iPad, and then tea. Hang on. So one comes back to the iPad, meaning, if the utensils you use for work are enjoyable, you're more likely to work. So if you predominantly do pen and paper, or you're grading stuff or you're writing stuff in pen and paper, get a really sick notebook and invest in a really sick pen that is good to use. Comfortable in the hand, good glide, all that kind of stuff. I can recommend Uniball Air if that's your thing. But then as well, like if you're typing computer, maybe the iPad Pro is for you. Maybe a Chromebook is for you. Maybe a Razer Blade 13-inch that was just announced today is for you. Find the device that's for you that makes the experience enjoyable. If your job is to review books, maybe a Kindle is the best way for you to do about that or anything like that. So make the process enjoyable, and then you'll be more likely to do it. And then that ties back into why I watch so many of these productivity guru people online and read their blogs and subscribe to their email newsletters and do all these things. Like Ali Abdaal, for instance, has so many videos on why the iPad Pro is so good. He reviews every iPad that comes out every year, I'm pretty sure, and the iPhones. I've been watching his videos for years, and then I'm like, screw it, I'll just buy an iPad Pro. And I did, and now I don't look back because this thing gets me so much more work done. Pardon me. So if I can see someone being not only successful, but getting so much done, while also he was, at the times I was watching it, a full-time doctor. If he can do all that, I can see myself doing that. Ergo, then that ties back into, I can see myself being productive and getting more done, which is really good. And then another person, so there's 3 main people, if you're looking to be more productive in this space, or you're trying to just be better at life, you're looking for a bit of inspiration and not motivation, which is another thing we'll get back to as to why that's horse manure. So Ali Abdaal, really inspiring. So one is his reviews are really good for comprehensive tech and productivity apps. 2, his vlogs are quite entertaining, and I really like his personality and his podcast and looking at things. 3, his study with me sessions and stuff like that really inspire you. So if you like being around people to study, but there's no one that currently studying, like if you're out of your friends group, if you're the only one at uni or the only one running a business, and there's no one else to kind of like hang out and co-play these with, his study with me videos are really good. So some of them are in the style of a vlog where he'll kind of just go through his day and be like, 9 a.m. I did this, 10 a.m. I did this, then I studied this, and then I broke down these notes, then I used this method, all that kind of thing. And some of them are literally 3 hours long of a video of him studying. And then occasionally he chats to the camera in his like little 5-minute breaks. And they're really good. Secondly is Tim Ferriss. He's really good for life advice, life coaching, business advice overall. So Ali Abdaal will be really good on the productivity and study space. A little bit of tech in there as well. Tim Ferriss is good for everything. Life, business, productivity, health, everything there. And then on the third side, you've got Gary Vaynerchuk, Gary V, from the Ask Gary show, I think, or Ask Gary V, whatever it was. He is just inspirational. You watch one video and you're like, why aren't I selling things on eBay? Why aren't I working harder? Obviously, there's a flip side to that of, you need to sleep and you need to have a life, but he helps me get things done. Yeah, Gary Vee helps me get things done. Tim Ferriss shows me the way to run my life while I get things done. And then Ali Abdaal shows me the best way, the most efficient way, the most productive way to get those things done in the least amount of time. And then they're the holy trinity of getting crap done in your life. So go check all of them out. Ali Abdaal, he's on YouTube. He's got his podcast, Not Overthinking. He's got a website, aliabdaal.com. Tim Ferriss, same thing. He's got YouTube. He's got books. He's got his website, timferriss.com. He's got the Tim Ferriss Show podcast. Gary Vee, same thing again. I don't know his website, but he's on YouTube on like 3 different channels. He's got the Ask Gary Vee show, and then he's got Instagram, Twitter, all that kind of stuff. And he responds pretty rapidly to a lot of things. So he's someone really good to check out. And that brings us to what I was going to talk about, which is the journaling and morning pages. So back 2 months ago, before I started doing this, I didn't think journaling could really work. It feels corny, it feels cheesy, and now my hay fever is kicking in and my roof and my mouth is itchy. It felt corny and cheesy to journal, especially if you journal in the way that you see people do it in the movies, where it's like, today I went and delivered roses to my horse, and then I went to the shops because I needed a can of beans and all that kind of crap. But it depends how you approach. For some people, that actually really works really well for them and is a very positive mental thing for them to do. For me, it just felt like, this is stupid. Why am I doing this? But it works. It works so well. So what I use it for is a way, and I'll phrase it the way Tim Ferriss phrases it. It's a way for him to brain vomit onto a page to trap his monkey mind so he can get on with the rest of his day. So what you write in this morning pages, and if you're going to do this, you don't have to do this exactly like I say. This is just one of the ways, if you're struggling, one of the ways you can tackle it. Like for me, example, I still write pretty coherently. Like I still try and structure it, but you could literally write absolute gibberish and it's just pour out. Let your brain pour, release the valve. You could scrunch this up and burn it later. You could keep it to look later, but it's get it all out on paper. The physical act of writing it is so helpful. And I really wish I'd figured this out many years sooner. So you get it out on the page. And to me, it's like a conversation with the paper. So yes, you can just write it in note form being like, work, crap, had to do this, didn't like doing this, wanted to do it this way. I write it almost like you would in the movies. Dear diary, this is what happened today. Oh, I really hope, how are you, blah, blah, blah. You write it in a conversation with the paper. It's private. No one has to see it. So that might be the benefit of doing it on like on Notion where you can track it, is then you can password lock it. No one's going to see it. I do it in a notebook. It's old fashioned. The process of writing is very monotonous, but good for the mind. It's like a form of meditation almost. So there's that. So it's a conversation with paper, and it's good. It's a good conversation with paper because you can complain to the paper. And you don't need to worry about the paper. If you complain to people in real life, after a day or two, they're going to tell you bugger off because they're sick of it and it's bringing them down. If you complain on the page, you can be ecstatic in real life and enjoy your life without all this negative connotation. Your positivity is through the roof. You're not bothering other people and bringing them down with your negativity. You leave it in the paper, you trap it in a book, it's gone, you forget about it. Obviously, some negativity in your life needs to be talked about with a mental health professional, so that's something to consider. But if you just got, Georgia at work is annoying you, trap it on paper. It'll do you some real good in your mind. So yeah, and everyone should start this tomorrow, honestly. Go out. Like I said before, if you buy the nice materials, you're more likely to do the thing. Go out to Officeworks or whatever your staples, if you're in the US. I don't know, Harrods, I don't know what the stationery supply store in the UK is or anything. Go in there, find the notebook that looks the sickest to you, whether that's just a regular spiral bound thing you would have used at school, or if you want something fancier and like leather bound, get something with like a couple hundred pages. Make A4 is probably better in this scenario. Get a sick pen, Uniball Air I can recommend. Cheap pen, doesn't matter. Just make sure you're going to want to use it. And then, every morning you write 1 to 4 pages. Just let your mind pour onto the page, and that'll do you some real good in the rest of your life. And talking about the rest of my life, my website is finally launched. After some much annoyance and debating with the hosting provider. Oh my God. I had bought the domain. I bought it for like 5 years, like straight off the bat. And then I got the hosting service, who I won't mention because that's just mean. And then I got the hosting, and then the domain, and then Squarespace is asking for stuff from the hosting. It's just back and forth, so much stuff. But it's okay because I called up their phone support, which was very, very helpful, friendly. Got me the problem sorted in like 20 minutes, if that. And, within a day, the website was up and running. And on that site, you'll find blog posts, hopefully, which I want to do at least one a week regardless. So one a week for the podcast. And then I'm thinking of also the clips I plan to do for the podcast that will release in between each episode. So you'll have the weekly podcast every week. The stuff in between might have an accompanying blog post each as well. And then I might just do some random blog posts if I get bored, just something there. And then also my gallery and my portfolio for photography is on that website as well. All that kind of stuff. Maybe that'll be the place I, put stuff if you're going to buy prints and things like that nature as well. So I put all that there. Over the next coming week or two, I plan to take more photos, spruce it up, make it look a bit nicer. But for the bare bones bit, it's all up now. You can go check it out, joshapadu.com. And that'll be really good. And then that also leads into the next topic, which I'm sure you guys will get sick of me saying very soon, which is everyone needs to buy a domain today. It's so cheap, you'd be stupid not to. Regardless if you're a doctor or you're in construction, like you're a tradie man, you're at uni right now, you don't know what your career is going to be like in 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. You're going to kick yourself if you don't have a domain that is your name. Because the problem is now, most likely if your name is actually John Smith, I guarantee your domain is gone on all fronts. You're going to end up with like johnsmith.biz, which just looks like a virus waiting to happen. Which, if you have a more unique name, don't wait for that to be taken. Buy it now. You can literally it's like $15 a year. So you could set yourself up for 5 to 10 years very easily. It's so cheap. You don't have to worry about the hosting side of things like Squarespace or Wix yet. You can sort that out once you sort out what you're using the domain for. Just get the domain, at least then you own the one that is yours. You own ElijahWood.com. You own AliAbdal.com. You own JohnSmith.com for what it is you want to do. But then as well, yes, you can leave it to if your work requires it in the future. You can start up a blog or a website and start the hosting and paying for that. But if you do need a bit of a side project, it's surprisingly budget friendly to do it now. Just start blogging. Like if you're into cars, start doing a blog once or twice a week where you're like, okay, this is what I worked on my car. This is a new car that came out. This is the sick things about it. These are the things that suck about it. It's so easy to do and you can do it all on your phone. And it's something that could possibly earn you revenue later. And, you know, it's something you'd be silly not to do. Like a YouTube channel or even a podcast, there's an equipment cost that can be pretty high to get into. And now tea. So in terms of hierarchy, it would go video production, YouTube. If you're going to go that route and you want to produce really good quality stuff, yes, you're going to have to put in a lot of money. And you go down to podcasts, same deal again, but now you don't need cameras and lighting. You just really need a microphone and a recorder. And then you come down to blog, you need a domain, you need hosting, and you need your phone to take pictures and to write. That's literally it. And then you could be producing content in the same manner, doing the same SEO stuff and tags that you would do on the other two. So I think Squarespace, something like $115 a year, $15 for a domain a year, $225 a year, cheaper than your car, cheaper than your insurance, and you've got a full-on website. You've got billhodgins.com kind of thing. It's got a lot of punch and oomph to it. People think it's very complex to get a website up and running and you need to be a coder. No, literally all the YouTubers you see getting sponsored by Squarespace, literally all of them actually use it. It's so easy, but the annoying part is when I went to go use it, I could not find a single discount code. And then a week after I already paid for it, it's like, use Matt Does Fitness 10% off discount code. I was really annoyed at that. But why wait till later? Use your name, start a blog today, get some stuff out. And it's another form of writing, which is very melodic and very good for the mind. In addition to your morning pages, write a blog. You'll thank me for it later. I know, I wish I did. And then you've got, to round us all out, you've got the election. The US election, which is more likely to start a civil war. Now, at this point, if I jump on my phone here and try and look for an election outcome, which I don't think I'm going to find, I've got a tab open. If it refreshes in due time, it is currently 214 Trump to 264 Biden. So he's very close to winning. That's about as far as I like to take this political chat. I don't like talking politics ever. I hate it. I avoid it where I can. It's just bane of my existence. I do not like talking politics. I do about this because it's interesting. It's more drama than it is political views. It's just drama like, there's armed people in the US, people with assault rifles. This is the problem. People with assault rifles storming counting centers, and now they've got to cease that because safety. You don't want people dying. And that's causing all hullabaloo. So hopefully by the time, I'm recording this on the Friday the 6th, and this is going to go live on the following Monday. So maybe by that Monday, the outcome will be public, and please be congratulations, President Biden. No one wants Trump for another 4 years, even if that would stop a possible civil outbreak of things. And this weekend's going to be so hard if you're in the US. I feel very sorry for you. Stay safe, stay indoors, COVID and that, just stay inside anyway, probably the safer option regardless. But insert president here, hopefully not Trump. And that brings us to the conclusion of today's podcast. We're sitting at about hour 40. And as we conclude, and before I give you my little spiel of where to follow me and how to find me and support the podcast or whatever, I just want to say I feel really good about sitting here and just talking for a solid 90 minutes. That's like another thing. So like YouTube might not be for everyone, especially camera skiing. People can get really touchy about being in front of a camera. But go start a blog. Go start a podcast. Just sitting here talking. It's like a therapist, but the therapist isn't going to talk to you. Just sit here and you can just talk about random stuff. And I can guarantee you some semblance of an audience will want to listen to it. I really hope somebody listens to this because this is it's entertaining for me and a really good way for me to spend my time. I am thoroughly enjoying it. I don't know if you can tell, but I love it. It's great. I don't care who listens. I don't care what kind of critique I get. It's fun. At this point in time, I don't see myself stopping. I eagerly plan. I was like, oh, I could have filmed this yesterday, but I was waiting for the mic stand here to arrive that you can see on the video, but you can't see in the audio, obviously. I'm just waiting for some lighting stuff as well. Like I'm still waiting for a light dome that will soften the light a bit that's coming onto me. But yeah, I make the notes and I'm just eager to record the next one and the next one and the next one. But I'm limiting myself to one a week because I know if I do 7 a week, I will burn out so quickly. It's ridiculous. But that is episode 1 of the Just Winging It podcast. Thank you guys so much for listening. Remember, you can find us on anywhere podcasts are found: Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Obviously, we've got the YouTube video version, but obviously you could stick that, if you've got premium or whatever, put that in the background, just listen to it or watch it as well. That'd be great. Comment down below if you're watching video-wise, what you like, what you don't like, everything like that. Like and subscribe to help us out with the YouTube algorithm so we can grow the podcast, possibly maybe get some guests in the future. I am looking into purchasing another couple of mics because my recorder does support up to 4 XLRs, so we could get a big podcast going, maybe just one guest at a time kind of thing. If you have any questions or you have feedback or anything like that, you can contact us on the justwingingitpodcast@gmail.com. I'll read all of it. We've got nothing yet, but I'll read all of it. I will reply, and it'll be a really good time. You can also check me out on joshapadoo.com, where you can find all the accompanying blog posts for all of the episodes, as well as the clips, as well as any other blog I might write, and just little bits and pieces on there. It'll be a really fun read. You can find me on Instagram, Sclemency Official, Twitter, Sclemency. That's about it. If you are listening to this on an iOS device, please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. Please go out of your way to leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, as that's the way we can help ourselves boost us in the rankings on iTunes and things like that. If you're on Spotify and things like that, please share it. You never know who's going to get a little bit of value out of this, and it's really valuable to a lot of people. And yeah, like it, add it to a playlist, all that kind of stuff. Follow the podcast, subscribe, and all the good stuff. And I hope to catch you guys next time. Take it easy. Oh boy.